This is AgriCountry, brought to you in part by Alice Chalmers and your nearby Alice Chalmers dealer. And here's your host for AgriCountry, Ed Johnson.
Hi, everybody. Nice to have you with us on this week's edition of AgriCountry. We're going to take you down to the Howard Sheets farm. This is a family that's been butchering hogs for many, many years. Then we're going to travel clear up into Wood County to a beef operation of Tom and Leanne Dirksati. And to wrap up today's AgriCountry, we will be visiting with the Ohio JC's outstanding young farmer. AgriCountry coming your way right after these messages. Years ago in the winter in Ohio, this was a very common sight. Families getting together to butcher. Anymore, it's a real rarity. We're at the Howard Sheets farm, Fairfield County, near Sugar Grove, on Horns Mill Road. It's the Sheetses and the Crowes getting together. They'll be butchering 4 hogs here today, from putting them in the hot water, taking the hair off, hanging them, cleaning, cutting, rendering the lard, running the sausage, and then at the end, hanging the meat in the smokehouse to cure. Today we want to relive an art in rural Ohio, that of butchering out on the farm. How many hogs would you butcher normally every year?
Someplace in the name of 30. That's all together. The family around, down my brother-in-law's, we butchered 3 weeks ago. We butchered 5, and a week before that we butchered 6 down at Pap, and the week before that we butchered 8 down here. And we'll butcher 4 here, and then I'll go down to my cousin. We'll butcher 4 or 5 down there.
Will you take the equipment that's here, the kettles and everything?
No. Everybody's got their own stuff, except this scalding kettle. It's down to my brother-in-law's, and we bring it up here and haul it back and forth.
Now, you started about 7 o'clock this morning. When did you start these fires?
No, about 5 minutes till 5. And didn't get daylight early this morning, and we shot them about 7:15, something like that.
I noticed there's something like 10 nephews that are here.
About 12. 12 nephews, 4 or 5 nieces, and all these nephews. None of my family. All my family's gone. But except a couple sisters and a brother, and the brother rather stay far enough away from hogs he couldn't see it.
How many years have you been doing this?
All our life. Yeah, I've got my grandmother's old sugar cure recipe, and that's what I use. Cure all the hams, and smoke some of the sausage, and keep some up fresh. Same way with the sides. Now, we butcher an extra hog here just to get the bacon. My wife and I like the bacon. And I leave my brother-in-law to have the rest of the hog.
When you hand rub those hams, how long will it be before you really want to get in there and to cook them?
You mean to smoke them?
Well,
or to cure them?
To cure them. How long will it take before
Well, it depends on the
say,
weather.
Mama, go ahead and cook them?
Depends on how the weather is. Now, so you put that sugar cure on them, and then that's brown sugar and salt, pepper, a little saltpeter, and you wait until that goes in. And if it's cold and the meat stays frozen, well, it don't go in too soon. But after the cure goes in, it'll disappear. And then you hang them up and start smoking them. Smoke them with sassafras and apple.
Many a farmstead across Ohio still has the old smokehouse. Not very many of those smokehouses get used. Howard, here's one that gets used every year.
Every year.
You've got meat hanging in here. Share with our friends watching. When will you begin putting the smoke to this?
Well, depends on the weather, how soon the cure goes in. When the cure is in, if it's warm enough and the meat don't freeze, why the cure will go in probably 6 weeks. And then you can start smoking it.
You're talking the old brown sugar.
Brown sugar, and salt, and pepper, and little saltpeter. It's my grandmother's old sugar cure recipe is what it is.
So you'll rub that into the meat, and
Well,
you're
really,
saying
you rub a little, but you just
Right.
put it on, and it'll go in. And about 6 weeks has been always been the period of time it takes that cure to go in, and then you just hang it up and start smoking.
where do you put the fire in this house?
Right in a kettle, an old kettle right here, and cover it so it smothers and don't burn. We even use the sawdust off the sassafras to keep the fire smothered.
All you want to do is
And
just
it has to
smoke
be-
and smoke.
Smoke's all you want. You don't want fire. You want smoke. And we use green wood and cut the sassafras in the fall. And, well, we cut this about 3-4 weeks ago. So it's green, and all you need is enough dry wood to support it. And after you get it started, why, it'll just smother. Check it about every couple of hours, something like that.
How many days or weeks would you have it smoking?
Depends on how many hours, but smoke it to your liking. Whenever the color gets right, well, you quit.
So what would that be, a day or so?
Oh, probably a couple of days, maybe 3.
As we said, a smokehouse that gets used every year. Howard, certainly nice to be at your farm in the rolling hills of Fairfield County and to be a part of truly a family tradition, butchering hogs. This week here on AgriCountry, we're in far northwest Ohio in Wood County, about 12 miles east of Bowling Green. We're at the beautiful family home of Tom and Leanne Dirkside. We're also going to be talking with their children, Jenny, and was also Kelly. This is not a big beef operation, but you'll not find a lot of large beef operations in northwest Ohio, even though that is the popular place in our state to feed out cattle. Tom, how many cattle on feed at the moment?
We have 56 in the barn today. 16 just went to market this morning.
I understand you have one empty barn. If you were at full capacity, economics were right, how many head could you have on full feed at one time?
We could handle approximately 200 head at one time.
If the economics were right, would you like to have the barns full?
If the economics were right, yes, we would like to have them full.
Well, it tells me that you do enjoy feeding cattle. Where do you market the cattle now?
Today, they all go through Producers Livestock in Findlay, Ohio.
What weight do you like to sell at?
Like to sell from 10.5 to 1,100 pounds.
USDA, Tom, has proposed that we change grading of beef in order to move more beef, in order to cut down the days on feed. In layman's terms, they would like to move high good into the choice category. Your reactions as a beef feeder?
If the market's there, if the economics are there, fine. If they're not fat at that time, you're going to have to go to a little bit heavier weight. They're wanting to turn it over quicker, I know, but when you sit down to eat a steak, it's got to have a little something in it.
It's a good topic. Sit down and eat a steak. Some economists have said if the economics do not turn around, that a steak in this country could become as rare as eating lobster tail in a restaurant. Again, as a fellow who produces beef, do you think that'll ever happen in the good old USA?
I don't really think so. I think that, at least I'm hoping that when husband comes home from work, he wants a steak every once in a while instead of all this other stuff. As economics improves, why, they'll be eating more beef.
The large operations in the West, we're talking 10,000 head of cattle and a number of feedlots, others even more than that. A lot of outside money, absentee money, doctors, lawyers, executives. We see outside money being invested in feedlots in northwest Ohio.
Not in this area at all. It's still the family feeders who's handling all the finances for this livestock industry.
Cash flow is so important. Tom,
Okay.
how difficult is it to secure a loan now to by yearlings or feeder calves?
Present day, good reputation, not too much of a problem.
A guy can get the money as long as he can pay the interest.
That's correct. As long as he can pay the interest, why, you have this part of Ohio, we have a lot of small independent banks yet that still know their customers, and no problem that way at all.
Leanne, your home is just absolutely beautiful. I thought it was brand new. How many years have you been living in the new home?
3.5 years.
But I understand 10 years you were in a mobile across the road?
No, right in front of the home. Right outside our front door.
I understand Jenny didn't want to leave the mobile.
No, she was very upset. She thought that was much nicer than the house.
But maybe she would think differently now. What's it like? Because I understand that Tom did a lot of work on the house and that you got involved in the papering and woodwork, painting and so forth. Would you recommend that to other farm couples that might be viewing AgriCountry?
It saved a lot of money, but it made our nerves we were very short on.
Well, I think you're being very honest. I really do. What's your involvement with the grain and cattle operation here?
I basically, if he needs parts or something, I will run and get them, and I take care of getting the meals.
Sounds like Marilyn in our place. I just like a taxi driver, she says. But I understand that you also do some other driving in another part-time job. Share that with us.
Yes, I'm the substitute mail carrier for the Bradner area.
How often are you doing that?
Whenever the other lady has vacation time or sick leave or just wants to take a day off.
We've had some interesting weather this winter. How does the lady cope with all that? Does Tom put chains on, or does he just say go?
He drives for me if it's really nasty.
The two girls, 1 one little past 8-11. What are some of the advantages of raising children out in the country?
I really think it's much nicer. I know where my kids are, where sometimes kids in the cities or in towns and they're running all over, and I appreciate knowing where they're at. And I feel like they've got different values. They appreciate things a little bit more than some kids. I think they aren't handed things like maybe kids in town.
What are some of the frustrations of a young farmer's wife?
There are many.
Well, like what? Weather, would you put weather close to the top as a frustration, or is it high interest or economics?
The interest, economics, weather, it's a big worry as to, whether you're getting enough rain, whether you're not, whether we're going to make it, because you depend on that money coming in you're going to live on what you make off the farm.
You live year to year, but yet you live for the future as well.
Right.
As you look at that future as a farm wife, how do you see the rest of the 80s and into the 90s?
It's kind of rough. Maybe in a few years things will straighten up, but right now things are tight.
But you're not ready to change your way of life.
No.
Leanne, earlier we talked about Jenny being involved at the county fair this past year.
Yes, she was in 4-H. She made a jumper.
Jenny, why don't you come on in and we'll take a look at this nice piece of work. How many years in 4-H?
3.
And this is the jumper. Where was it judged first?
At a church in Scotchridge.
Now, what do they look for when they're judging a jumper?
Well, how straight the seams are, and if the hem is nice and you don't see the thread on the outside.
You like to sew?
It's okay.
It's okay. But where did you go after the judging?
We could decide if we would like to go to the style review at the Wood County Fair, and I said I'd go, and I won honorable mention.
Excellent. What's in the plans for this year?
I think if I'm in 4-H, I'll probably take cooking.
We want to take now, all you listening friends and viewing friends, we're going to go out to the barn, take a look at the cattle, and we're also going to take a look at that steer that Kelly has on feed out there. Probably no place in Ohio would you find two feedlot operations the same. This is a barn that's been transformed into an inside feeding operation. Tom, how many years have you been feeding here?
This barn has been in operation about 60 years.
How many can you keep in this barn?
We can keep 120 head in here at one time.
I notice you have a number of Holsteins on feed. It'd be my guess you haven't always fed Holsteins.
No, Holsteins haven't been our number one producer. We trying to make a dollar on feeding anything that we can to make economics work.
What were you able to put these Holsteins in at?
They weighed about 750 pounds and cost us about 57 and a half.
And you would certainly like to sell them at more than 57 and a half.
Oh, definitely.
What would you like to get for them?
As much as I can, sure. Break even on them are about $57.
What do you think the cattle market's going to do as we look to the rest of this winter and into spring?
I don't look for it to do a whole lot. I think I'm hoping it holds steady. I can't see a big improvement on it.
Why don't you think it'll change, Tom?
People just aren't. They're not working. They can't afford to eat, and that's the first place they cut down on is what they eat. That's where they quit spending their money on.
As we take a look, and right here in the feed bunk, if we can just squat down here for a moment, and if we can take a look, because this is just awfully good-looking feed, Tom. What mixture is this?
We're feeding about 25 pounds of corn silage with about 5 pounds of ground shelled corn, pound of supplement a day.
When do you like to put your silage into the silo?
Full dent on the ears. When corn is 100% dent, then we'll start filling silo. Try to work the varieties out to get started at it 1st to the 10th of September.
It's my guess that you don't feed any hay whatsoever, do you, with this kind of forage?
Only as we first in on new cattle, I will start them out on hay. Other than real cold weather, we'll give them a little bit of hay.
You bring the Holsteins in pretty good size, but what about the other black baldies and so forth that we see in here? What size do you like to bring those in?
Like to bring them in at about 5.5 to pick up on the silage. If the price is right, we'll put them in at 700 pounds.
Tom, another thing I almost forgot to ask you about, and that's the straw, that you do not bale straw here. How do you put it in the barn?
We use our forage chopper and our forage blower that we use for insulage, and we have elbows on pipes when we blow her up into our hip roof mow.
Easier to handle that way?
Yeah, two of us can put away about approximately 2,000 bales a day, no trouble at all.
But what about the handwork of bringing it out of the mile down here?
We have holes located all throughout the floor up there, and you just rake her down a hole.
Let's go now down and take a look at Kelly's project in this other pen. Kelly, all across Ohio, this is a common setting for young people who have 4-H or FFA projects. You're too young for 4-H at 7 years old, but this is a steer, a part of the Pemberville Legion Club Calf Project. When did you get this calf?
In November.
And what did he weigh?
450.
What will you do now to get him settled down so you can get a halter on him?
Brush to him and talk to him.
Oh, yes, I like that. And they do talk to them, too. Is this your first year for a project?
My third.
Oh, this is the third year already. How'd the calf do last year?
Okay.
He did okay. And you sold him at the fair, Pemberville Fair. How much did he bring? I think Dad said 68 cents a pound. Does that sound right? How much would you like for this guy to bring?
Well, close to 90.
Oh, close to 90. Kelly, best of luck at the Pemberville Fair in '82.
Okay.
Congratulations certainly in store for the Ohio JCs, outstanding young farmer. And we're talking about John Steiner. Their farm's about 12 miles north of Worcester, Ohio. And we're talking about a dairy operation. John, how many cows?
We have about 125 milking cows, Ed.
Yeah, we talk about the Ohio JCs. They've been doing this program for quite some time. I'm sure a very enjoyable weekend for the both of you.
We'd like to express appreciation to the Ohio JCs for giving us opportunity to win this award.
Patty, how do you get involved in the milking operation back home?
I just keep the books for the farm and take care of the children and the housework.
Well, I just want to say, this thing of keeping books anymore is no little chore, and when we take a look at economics, goodness knows we have to know where we are in an operation. Also, children, share that with our viewing friends.
Okay, we have 2 daughters. One's 2.5 years old and the baby's 4 months old.
How many acres in the operation, John?
We have about 650 in the operation, 350 which is owned.
Milk production would be what per cow, approximately?
About 15,500 pounds of milk, 575 of fat.
And the milking setup are you in at home?
We milk in a herringbone parlor, a double 6.
How did you happen to get involved in this contest?
The Worcester JCs asked me to fill out an application, and I won the local contest and came to state, and we're very happy to win a state contest.
And I understand one of the grandparents came along, Patty.
Right, John's mother's here.
And she's the babysitting?
The babysitter, right, for the baby, yeah.
John, I've asked a lot of farmers so far this year to take a look at 82 as a dairyman. How do you look at it?
Well, I think we have to pull our belt just a little tighter, be a little more efficient, stress for a little more production out of the cows we have without increasing numbers, and just be a little more efficient, a little better with what we're doing.
Again, John Steiner, congratulations to you. The Ohio JC's outstanding young farmer for 1982-83, along with his wife Patty, and their dairy operation just north of Worcester, Ohio. Certainly nice to have you with us today. Next week here on AgriCountry, we're going to take you to the Delaware County Fairgrounds and share with you how they identify 4-H and FFA steers in a number of counties by the method of freeze branding. And then we'll travel with the AgriCountry cameras clear over into West Ohio, Darke County, and visit with Mel Stuckey at his poultry operation. And also next week on AgriCountry, a visit with Dave Kaler, who heads up Power Show Ohio.
Thank you for joining us today for AgriCountry with Ed Johnson, brought to you in part by Alice Chalmers and your local Alice Chalmers dealer. AgriCountry recognizes farm families who produce daily our abundant food supply.